Hey everyone, welcome. Today we're jumping into a really cool and honestly super powerful idea in the world of AI, supervised learning. We're going to break down how we can teach a computer to think, almost like it's a student in a classroom. So, you ever wonder how a computer actually learns? And I'm not talking about just crunching numbers. I mean really learning, grasping new ideas. Well, the answer's way more straightforward than you might think. It all starts with a model you already know really well, a teacher and a student. And that idea? That's the heart of what we call supervised learning. Seriously, the name says it all. It's learning with some, well, supervision. Just imagine the computer is our student, and all the data we feed it, that's the teacher, dishing out lessons and checking the homework. So with supervised learning, the machine isn't just thrown into the deep end to figure things out on its own. Nope, we give it a whole bunch of examples. Think of it like a massive practice test where all the answers are already filled in. The computer's job is to study these questions and their correct answers over and over again until it starts to see the patterns. It's kind of like a student cramming with an answer key, figuring out how to get to the right solution. Okay, so this whole learning thing really boils down to two main jobs. The computer is either trying to predict a specific number, or it's trying to predict what category something fits into. Let's dive into each of those. All right, first up, predicting numbers. Whenever that's the goal, we're talking about something called regression. And trust me, this is one of the heavy hitters in the machine learning world. So what is it exactly? Well, regression is all about predicting a number that can fall anywhere on a continuous scale. It's not trying to give you a yes or no answer, it's trying to answer how much or how many. Just think about the kinds of questions a regression model tackles. It's trying to figure out things like, how much will this house cost? Right down to the dollar. Or what's the temperature going to be tomorrow? Or even, what score will a student get on this exam? You see the pattern, right? The answer is always a number. So, if there's one thing to burn into your brain about regression, it's this. Regression equals number prediction. That's it. Simple as that. Okay, so we've got numbers down, but what happens when the answer isn't a number? Well, that brings us to the second big job of supervised learning, sorting things into groups. And for that, we have something called classification. And honestly, the idea here is super intuitive. Picture this. You've got a giant pile of fruit, and your job is to sort it into different bins. One for apples, one for bananas, one for oranges. That's exactly what a classification model does. It looks at a piece of data and decides which bin or which category it belongs in. And you see this all the time. A classification model doesn't care how spammy an email is. It just makes a decision. Is it spam or not spam? It doesn't guess the weight of the animal in a photo. It just tells you that's a cat or that's a dog. See? It's always about picking from a set list of distinct options. So here's your main takeaway for this one. Classification equals group prediction. It's about sorting, not about measuring. Simple, right? All right, so we've met our two stars of the show, regression and classification. Now let's do a quick side-by-side just to make sure the difference between them is totally crystal clear. This little chart really lays it all out. You've got regression on one side, which is all about predicting numbers, continuous values. It's asking questions like price, temperature. On the other side, you've got classification. Its job is to predict categories, labels, or groups. It's answering questions like yes or no, cat or dog. It's a fundamental difference. Okay, this all sounds pretty cool in theory, but where do you actually see this stuff in real life? The honest answer? Pretty much everywhere. Let's look at a few examples you probably interact with every single day without even realizing it. Ever been on a real estate app and seen that little price estimate for a house? Yup, that's a regression model working its magic. Or when a business tries to predict how much they're going to sell next quarter, that's regression too. Even your weather app, when it tells you how many inches of rain to expect, you guessed it, regression. And what about classification? Oh, this one's easy. Your email spam filter is the classic example, a model that's constantly deciding if an email is spam or not spam. And you know how your phone can recognize faces in photos and suggest tags? That's a classification model deciding, yep, that's your friend Sarah. These things are running in the background of our lives 24/7. Okay, let's bring it all home. If you remember anything from this, remember these three things. Number one, supervised learning is all about learning from labeled data, like a student with an answer key. Number two, Regression is your tool when you need to predict a number. And number 3, classification is what you use when you need to predict a category. Nailing these 2 ideas is, seriously, the foundation for understanding a huge chunk of machine learning.
And that kind of leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? We figured out how to teach computers based on what we already know. We can get them to predict and classify with amazing accuracy. So, what's the next big lesson we're going to teach them? What comes after this? Something to think about. Thanks so much for tuning in.